We've all been there, tossing and turning, anxiously watching the time pass on the bedside alarm clock. For almost everybody, these nights are inevitable at some point. But for an increasing number of people, difficulty sleeping is becoming a more common occurrence. Today I'm going to talk about how lack of sleep fucks you up on multiple levels. I just recently got back from a business trip out to Las Vegas. I work for a tech company that services the travel industry. Our days started early manning our trade show booth and ended late meeting with potential clients over cocktails. Needless to say, we didn't get much sleep. I have a Fitbit. It seems to do a pretty accurate job of logging sleep time. In the 4 days of travel, I averaged around 5 hours of sleep each night. When I got home, I was run down for sure. For the entire weekend, I survived the first couple of nights without getting too run down, but after the third night, my sleep deficit seemed to accumulate. I hit a wall for sure, carried over into the weekend after I got home, and I was logging about 8.5 hours when I was home for the past 2 nights. It's a lot for me. So the ass kicking I received from my trip prompted me to do a little research on how bad lack of sleep will fuck you up, and the answer is pretty bad. Here are a few standout negative effects that happen to your body when you don't get enough sleep. Number 1, weakened immune system. When you sleep, proteins called cytokines are released by your immune system. So cytokines increase to help the body deal with stressors and infection. A lack of sleep limits the production of these necessary proteins, which in turn lessens the production of defensive antibodies. This is why it's so much easier to come down with a cold when you go without enough sleep. Number 2, lowers testosterone. At the University of Chicago Medical Center, they did a study on how sleep affects testosterone production in men. The subjects were healthy men in their 20s, and the guys who got less than 5 hours of shut-eye per night for a period of 1 week had lower levels of testosterone. The decrease to their testosterone levels was 10 to 15%. Reason number 3, cortisol spike. See a lot of stuff online about how cortisol is bad for you, but it's a necessary stress hormone. It's produced in the adrenal gland. It's responsible for waking up our bodies after a night's rest, among a host of other things. So when cortisol levels are thrown off balance, that's when problems arise, and I mean problems. Any external stress, trouble at work, sick family member, dealing with back pain, can push your cortisol levels off balance. When your cortisol levels are higher near bedtime, it'll make it harder to fall asleep. When you don't log enough Z's, your body naturally produces more cortisol. So a negative cycle can start where you're not sleeping and then you're carrying a deficit, and this can lead to insomnia. The spike of cortisol creates a pro-inflammatory environment and can attribute to numerous health issues like leaky gut, high blood pressure, etc. Increased cortisol also dissolves collagen, which is responsible for keeping our skin elastic and healthy. People with higher than normal levels of cortisol tend to age quicker inside and out. So my conclusion is that yes, indeed, a lack of sleep will fuck you up. There certainly will be isolated instances like my Vegas trip. You won't get enough sleep and it'll take a few days to get back within your normal balance. Last year I had a pretty intense bout of insomnia. It can take much longer and require considerable effort to get out of that cycle. There are many things you can do to improve your chances of falling asleep at a decent hour. One of the most prescribed I see online is going to bed at the same time every night. While this is easier said than done at times, particularly when you're dealing with a bout of insomnia or stress, it is sound advice, but many people have their own tricks. I have a few myself, but I didn't intend for this post to be on sleep hygiene. That's a separate post for my future self to work on. So for now, I'll leave you with this. Doctors prescribe a 7 to 8 hours of sleep every night for adults. Everyone has their personal number that works for them, and I feel great at 7. One factor I don't think a lot of people consider is that most people wake up numerous times during the night, accounting for about an hour of lost time, which is considered normal, by the way. So my Fitbit Blaze's sleep monitoring tech is what made me aware of my perceived 6 hours was really more like 4.5. It has made me mindful to how to approach sleep more efficiently versus making false assumptions. I would wager that the majority of Americans get way less sleep than what they think, which is kind of a bummer for moonlighting bloggers like myself. I know a lot of people suffered with insomnia, myself being included in that mix, and that is a rough thing to deal with. Anxiety is a rough thing to deal with, and your sleep hygiene and your sleep schedule can really affect that. So if you start getting good sleep, you're going to be on your way to recovery. So again, hit that subscribe button, smash the like button, and I hope you enjoyed this.